Rupp Arena. The Southeast Regional Final coming your way. The Michigan Wolverines and the Ohio State Buckeyes. The Big Ten comes to Kentucky. The winner will play Cincinnati in Game 1 at the Final Four, followed by the Indiana-Duke game. That's next Saturday. Hi, everybody. I'm Jim Nantz, and welcome to the Southeast Final. What we have here today is a solid veteran team that has won back-to-back Big Ten titles, the Ohio State Buckeyes, playing against the greatest collection of freshman talent to ever explode on the NCAA tournament scene, the Michigan Wolverines. And their road to the regional final looks like this: a victory against Temple, followed by an ousting of East Tennessee State and Oklahoma State on Friday. Meanwhile, Ohio State with a 27-point win, 23-point win over UConn, and then North Carolina, they knocked them off on Friday night. Billy Backer, we talk about this freshman bunch from Michigan. They have several leaders, but one that really shined on Friday was Jalen Rose.
Jalen Rose is a glue for this team. He is such a brilliant backcourt leader. He understands the game, gets the ball to the right people at the right time. Sometimes it looks like he doesn't have a lot of effort into the game, but I think that belies his great brilliance on the floor and leadership. Now, there's a Michigan team, and we'll talk about how they have progressed as a team. Look at the floor balance they possess right here, and we're going to see Juwan Howard and Jimmy King work a perfect pick-and-roll play with that great floor balance clearing out a side. Howard hits down to King, sets the good solid screen. King comes off. Look at Howard roll to the basket, and with that floor balance, has an easy two.
A youngster on the Ohio State side, Lawrence Funderburg, had his finest game as a Buckeye on Friday.
Well, one of the things that makes Funderburg so good is the fact his quickness off the floor on the second leap, and that's what's going to be required today for him. But he fits perfectly into this lineup, and now is blended as a real starter.
All right, Billy, we've got a great crowd here. Enthusiasm to the max for Michigan and Ohio State.
CBS Sports exclusive coverage of the NCAA Basketball Championship Regional Final game is sponsored by Mazda Cars and Trucks. Mazda, it just feels right. The people at Nike who encourage you to just do it. And by Budweiser, the king of beers with that clean, crisp, cold taste. Nothing beats a Bud.
3,000 on hand at Rupp Arena. And let's get your starting lineups for Michigan and Ohio State. Here's the public address announcer, Doug Bruce.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Rupp Arena for today's game between the Wolverines of the University of Michigan and the Ohio State Buckeyes. And now, let's meet the starting lineups. For Michigan, at forward, a 6'9" freshman from Detroit, Michigan, number 4, Chris Webber. For Ohio State, at forward, a 6'7" senior from Sparta, New Jersey, number 21, Chris Jett. For Michigan, at forward, a 6'6" freshman from Austin, Texas, number 21, Ray Jackson. For Ohio State at guard, a 6'6" junior from Toledo, Ohio, number 22, Jim Jackson. For Michigan, at center, a 6'9" freshman from Chicago, Illinois, number 25, Juwan Howard. For Ohio State at center, a 6'9" sophomore from Columbus, Ohio, number 34, Lawrence Funderburg. For Michigan, at guard, a 6'5" freshman from Plano, Texas, number 24, Jimmy King. For Ohio State, at guard, a 6'1" senior from Dayton, Ohio, number 3, Mark Bender. For Michigan, at guard, a 6'8" freshman from Detroit, Michigan, number 5, Jalen Rose. And for Ohio State, at guard, a 6'4" senior from Arlington, Texas, number 30, Jamal Brown. And the coach of Michigan in his third season, Steve Fisher. And the coach of Ohio State in his third season, Randy Ayers.
about this scene, Billy Packer?
Well, if it can get any better than this in Minneapolis, it's going to be something, Jim.
Your officials in the Southeast final: Jerry Donahue from Havertown, Pennsylvania, David Libby from San Diego, California, and Art McDonald out of Vernon, New Jersey.
And Jim, despite the bitter rivalry between these two schools over so many years, I thought yesterday at the press conferences, both the players from these two teams and the coaches maybe showed as much class and character as anything I've ever seen in intercollegiate athletics. Be interesting to see today, now that it's put on the floor, how they can put themselves in a position which is going to be fierce combat out here.
Jim Jackson and Chris Webber embracing. They used to play in the summer league together in Detroit.
When Webber was just a sophomore in high school. So you wonder how they've matured so quickly.
The Fab Five has it at the start. And here's Jalen Rose.
Straight man as expected. Gent on Webber, giving up about 3 inches.
Ray Jackson driving and scoring.
By Jackson.
Jackson had an excellent game in the second game this year against Ohio State. Primarily a defender, not a scorer. Kind of surprised them there.
Jackson's working Jim Jackson on Ray Jackson. Inside, Funderburk partially blocked. Rose flings it to King, and it's a turnover.
Not a wise judgment at this point in the game for Jalen and Rose. They don't want to strike that quickly. And that block by the Big Ten's top young freshman of the year, Webber, on Funderburk, really surprising. He gets up so quick. And there's a little change in matchups. You'd have figured it'd be Howard on Funderburk early.
Instead, it's Webber on Funderburk. Here's Jackson. Nifty move, a nifty move on the baseline to free himself for Ohio State's first points. Ohio State has put Gent on Webber. King sets himself up, hits the jumper.
Basket by King.
Jimmy King.
Webber, Funderburk, Howard on Gent. Howard ought to be able to crash the boards pretty well from that position.
Jimmy Jackson is 2 for 2.
Jackson wanting to get in the game early, Jim, as far as his offensive production. We've always seen he's a second-half player, but he can't wait to the second half today.
Has really struggled in the first half in the tournament. Webber.
Basket by Webber.
Fouled out with only 4 points against Oklahoma State.
Lowest production of the year for that outstanding young player. Oh, what a leap.
Webber swats it away. No goaltending, and it's out of bounds. Belongs to Ohio State. They called it a tie-up situation, but the Buckeyes had the arrow.
Look at how far he came across the lane to get that ball. Leading rebounder in the Big Ten as a freshman. #1 in steals behind AC Earl, the shot block.
Jamal Brown hits the three-pointer.
Jalen Rose says to the referee, hey, watch him slapping that ball after they make a field goal. In the first game this year against Ohio State, Michigan turned it over 18 times in the first half. Settled down much better today.
The other thing to look for, Michigan was only 2 out of 30 from three-point range against Ohio State in the 2 losses. Rose gives it up to Webber, and he draws the foul.
You know, Rose is amazing with that first step of his. He just kind of walks around all the time, and all of a sudden he puts it in overdrive. Baker, who's got excellent quickness, is a guy you'd think could stay with him, and Rose went right by him on the baseline.
Jim Jackson picks up his first. Webber to the line for 2. We mentioned Webber fouled out against Oklahoma State. Steve Fisher told him once he fouled out, we still need you. And after the game, Fisher said there was no better cheerleader. In fact, the teammates were calling him ML Carr. ML Carr, that's what they were saying to Weber.
Well, how about this? He's averaging 49% off the line, and he hits 2.
All the way, Mark Baker.
Good job by Funderburk that time to block out Weber, just like it was a rebound situation. Weber couldn't get there for the block.
Howard right over Funderburk. I think he was afraid Funderburk might swat it away, and he put it up too strong. Baker again. Oh, he got caught at the last second and traveled.
Jim, remember on our opening of our telestrators saying, I don't think you'll see that again against Michigan State, where Ohio State got easy layups. Michigan State, Michigan, a much more veteran club right now, gets back on defense, so those easy layups just aren't there. Rose cuts Brown off.
Underneath to King. Rose bypassing the 3. And Funderburk had position. Baker quickly up ahead to Jamal Brown. He'll bring it back out.
And there's that defensive transition, just cutting it off, but a good reverse dribble by Brown.
On the move and does not score on the layup. 4 on 2. Jackson traveled.
You really have a feeling that if Michigan can get the ball in Rose's hands for a few minutes and get a little bit more half-court balance going, they're going to be a little better off. The pace of this game is really frenetic right now.
Bill Robinson in for Funderburk for the outright Big Ten champs. Their first outright title since 1971. Good feed by Jackson. Robinson was not quite ready.
And a pretty good catch.
6'8" Jalen Rose. Rebound and sets it up inside the Weber. Hook. Over the back was Howard. His first, and the first against the Wolverines.
Foul is called on Howard, his third team first. Timeout.
Ohio State pursuing its 9th Final Four. Michigan's going after its 5th Final Four. Out. Let's check in with the third member of our crew, Sports Illustrated's Curry Kirkpatrick. Curry?
Jim, everybody talks about Michigan's Fab Five sailing into uncharted waters in this tournament. Well, they are and they aren't. Ohio State's great class of Jerry Lucas and John Havlicek won the NCAA tournament in their very first try. Bill Walton's UCLA class won 2 NCAA tournaments. Lou Alcindor's UCLA class won 3. They weren't eligible to play as freshmen. The other day they asked the Michigan freshmen, can you win not 1 but 4 NCAAs? They went down the line. They answered yes, 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 and Chris Webber said yes as well. Is it any wonder nobody wants to dance with these Wolves? Back to you.
After a Robinson bucket, Webber takes it out of a jam. Jackson takes the 3 and nails it.
Boy, that's the second basket for Jackson. And Jim, as you pointed out, only 2 for 30 in three-point shooting against Ohio State with Michigan coming into this game.
Jackson on Jackson, and Ray picks up the foul. He also fouled out of the game against Oklahoma State. That's his first and the second against Michigan.
Jim, I'd like to say something, too, about the substitution pattern by Randy Ayers so far. You notice he brings Robinson in when really it's been Ricky Dudley of late would come in and play that position, but he needs size. He needs height there, so he can't afford to go with Dudley early. Robinson doing a pretty good job.
Good denying by Howard. Out of bounds, still belongs to Ohio State.
Oh, wait a minute. A double. It'll be a double, Chris Gent and Howard. Referee's trying to get in control of this one right away. And we ought to talk a little bit, Jim, of the sensational game we saw yesterday with Christian Laettner. Did a little foot stomping on someone, and why there isn't the potential of suspending there. You know, we both watched that game at the time, and I talked to Jim Mulaney last night, and I thought his comment was right on the money in the fact that the officials in the Sellers case did not see the play, and no call was made. And yet, in this particular case, there was a call. Here you see they're both jawing and bumping. Wow, it's a headbutt first. Professional wrestling, huh?
By Gent.
Gent started it with a headbutt. Then Howard went back and hit him with his chest.
Coach Randy Ayers, 2 straight years the Big Ten Coach of the Year. 1 more for his star, Jim Jackson. 0 for 2.
Now it's going to be Jalen Rose down at this end.
Hey, Billy, I want to pick up that point about Laettner yesterday. There's no question it was done on purpose by Laettner, but the level of aggression was nowhere near what happened last year by Sellers of UConn in the tournament.
But I think the real point is that the officials did adjudicate that play yesterday. They called the technical. There you see that Gent hits him right in the face with his head. Now, Howard would have been smart to walk away, and it would have been strictly his 2 technical. Kind of tough to walk away when a guy gives you a headbutt there.
So only 1 free throw made. That by Jalen Rose, and it should be Ohio State basketball. They exchanged technicals that had been out of bounds.
Michigan gets possession ball because of the contact.
Oh,
They
called a contact foul in addition to that on Gent. Okay, we just pick up on that. Gent also hit with a personal foul, his first. So therefore, it's Michigan basketball.
Jackson on Jalen Rose. On the switch with Brown. Good feed to the low post.
Long rebound to Weber.
I think it's smart for Michigan to keep punching that ball down inside.
Wants to challenge Robinson, and it comes to the 7-footer on the bounce. Blocked by King. Baker gets it back. Sets up Robinson.
Ayers can do no wrong with his substitution pattern. Skelton was the big man against North Carolina off the bench. Dudley against Connecticut, and today he goes with Robinson, who delivers 2 big baskets.
Howard gets the roll. That was just a marvelous assist by Mark Baker a moment ago.
You know, maybe they're thinking about some foul trouble, too. Potentially getting Weber in foul problems, and Weber going right after him.
They call him shake and bake, Mark Baker. And after his shot was blocked, after a shake and a bake, he sets up Bill Robinson for the dunk.
What made that play, too, Jim, was he didn't put the ball on the floor in extra time, just shuffled it right on through.
Thunderberg comes in for Chris Gent. 4 Ohio State starters, plus Robinson on the floor. And Pelinka's the first sub in for Michigan. Skip pass sets up Jim Jackson off on the 3. Robinson very active here early. His 3rd rebound. Jackson was trying to go
by Weber.
I don't think that was a shot. It looked like a pass. Jamal Brown sets up the break now for Ohio State.
Good hand.
It's Thunderberg.
Weber thought everybody had gone down court. Didn't realize Jackson was behind him.
Baker hits it.
Chris Weber had surrounded the ball. He watched everybody run down score, but he didn't count enough because Jackson was right behind him.
Kings post up Baker and goaltended. Scored a basket to Jimmy King, who jaws with Mark Baker after scoring the basket. Counting the basket.
Going inside. That's got to be Michigan's story early in this game. There you see the ball was up on the glass and on the way down. Robinson hit it. See what's interesting, in the first game, Michigan only scored 13 points in the first half to go along with those 18 turnovers. They already have 16 in this one, and they're not halfway there through the first half.
That was Michigan's lowest total and a half since 51. And that loss, good pass, Thunderberg. but he also got a piece of the arm. Eric Riley, who was just inserted into the game, coming off his finest showing of the season against Oklahoma State when he had 15 points, 10 rebounds.
We see the dump down on the inside. Riley comes over to help.
Funderburk will step to the line.
And then does an excellent job getting back after doing a good job to help on the pass. Comes back to do a good job against Funderburk on the shot. Even though he picked up the foul, good footwork on Riley's part.
Funderburk will shoot 2. Billy, this is a young man who I believe perhaps perception-wise across the country is greatly misunderstood. He is a very bright young man after going through the transfer out of Indiana, sitting out a year. We'll get your thoughts on that when we come back. An official's timeout. Buckeyes lead it by 1. Not all time, actually active percentage in the tournament.
Hey, Jim, I'm going to put a guy in here. Bob Huggins would fit in here. He's 4-1, so let's stick Huggins in there at 4-1. What's that?
Let me grab that telestrator for a minute. That's 80%, so you put it here.
Oh, okay.
You put it ahead of
well, no, wait a minute. You got to cross off the 10 games. He hadn't been at 10 games.
In fact, I said to Steve Fisher yesterday, I said, Coach, who has the highest win percentage all time in the tournament? He said, John Wooden, of course. I said, no, Steve Fisher. He didn't even know that.
Well, it's nice to start out 6-0. Riley and Howard operating two-man low post situation now.
King and Robinson with some big minutes off the bench. His 4th rebound and 4 points.
It is absolutely incredible the production that Randy Ayers has gotten off his bench in regard to quality minutes.
Michigan takes it away. Slicing through Rose. What a pass to Riley. He wrapped it around the opponent.
And how about the catch by Riley? He had a big game in the second game, the first time he really came off of a major production game. But he is focused in now, coming off of that great game that he had the other night.
That's when we proclaimed Riley as the top backup center in college basketball.
Good double team on Funderburk.
Gets away from it.
Oh.
Nice little hook by Funderburk.
Good job by Lawrence to get out of that double team. Jimmy, you're talking about Funderburk before. I thought yesterday he handled himself so well in the press conference. We mentioned about all of the players. But what was also interesting is that Randy Ayers said he knew him for 9 years. And I think that association that goes way back to his junior high days had a lot to do with him making the adjustment. Here we see the double team. And you notice how Funderburk does not use that elbow to do that sweep move around, and that's what prevented him from not picking up a foul. And then the great shot using his left hand.
Foul on Robinson, and James Bosco comes in for Michigan, replacing Jimmy King. But what I was saying about being misrepresented, I think often when kids transfer, people think he must be a bad kid. And that's not the case with Funderburk. Do you believe?
Not anything that we have seen in covering him this year, I can assure you that.
Howard to shoot 2. Chris Gent returns. Weber will come in for the shooter. Robinson gets a big ovation.
And we have not seen Skelton or Davis, the guard group that did so well for Randy Ayers.
Howard hits them both. And since the second one's good, they can bring in the sub. Weber for Howard.
It looks like both coaches are saying, hey, this is going to be a tight game. I want to use my bench early so I can have my regulars ready to go at the end. Little three-man weave by Ohio State.
Baker kind of slid into that pass. And Jackson traveled. Fifth turnover against Ohio State.
Pretty hard to operate one-on-one against a player without a clear out. There's Jackson anticipating the pass.
He gets it right back.
They better get the ball in Jalen Rose's hands more often, should Michigan, when they want to start off their offense. Gent
launches the 3. Riley with the rebound. Never a doubt on that one. Oh, he had his back foot on the line.
Now, Jim, that's a good thing. When you see Rose with the ball, and you're going to be a guy that's going to flare out to the side, you should be one step beyond the three-point line. That's the perfect place to get the good shot, get the advantage of the three-point play. But what happened, Pelinka was all the way out on the sideline. 2 or 3 steps beyond what was necessary. And he's an all-academic Big Ten player.
Seemed like a guy who used to play for Michigan, used to shoot him from out there. Glenn Rice seemed like he was almost out of bounds when he was right here at this site in 1989, falling into the bench with his threes.
And set a record with 8 three-point shots at this site. And that's not taken, that's made.
You saw matching 6 turnovers. 20-19 Michigan. Riley from the baseline. Oh, Weber.
What man. And Gent is a powerful young man, and he held Gent off and then used those great hands of his to capture that rebound. And stares Gent down as they walk down the floor.
He brought that rebound in with his fingertips.
Oh, yeah.
Over Pelinka, Jackson back of the iron.
And what Michigan is doing is challenging every jump shot. The officials have not, in my estimation, really watched what happens after the jump shot today. Twice Weber has put men down on the floor.
Riley has just been hit with his second foul.
Here come the 2 guards, Jim, that did so well against North Carolina.
Skelton and Davis. Alex Davis, Jamie Skelton in for Ohio State. And Juwan Howard returns to the Michigan lineup.
Now, they started bringing these guards in as a twosome at the Purdue game. They have not scored against Michigan in any game this year, but of course they're a lot different twosome now than they were back during those first 2 games. See if Jackson tries to get Skelton into the game.
Jen, high arching shot, and a 3, his first points of the game. Ties it at 22.
Here come the fresh legs of Skelton and Davis all over Rose.
Vanderburg underneath, hit with the foul. Tournament summary, Billy. Duke going to its 5th consecutive Final Four and 6 out of 7. Leitner becomes the all-time scorer in the tournament.
Cincinnati, of course, winning back-to-back championships and then beaten when they were going for that 3rd game in one of the all-time great games at Loyola Chicago, knocking them off in overtime.
Vanderburg picks up a second quick one. And we're under 8, so an official timeout. Catch 22 on the scoreboard. Billy Packard, along with Curry Kirkpatrick from Rupp Arena in Lexington. 3-point shooting, well, the Wolverines 1 of 2, Ohio State 2 of 7. Second chance points, Buckeyes have an 8-point advantage in that stat.
And that's mainly Robinson when he came in the game and played really some quality minutes.
4 starters on the floor for Michigan, plus James Bosco, who's in for Ray Jackson.
And Ohio State very small at this point in the game. And see if Michigan can take advantage of it inside.
Jalen Rose spinning around. Skelton. We said the other night, he's a feisty little sub.
What Randy Ayers said, Skelton and Davis have both also done in regard to being much more patient on the offensive end of the floor, and there was a good example of it. Skelton might have come down earlier in the year and tried to put something up 2-on-1.
He has tremendous quickness. Jen with the hook. Rebound bounces to Howard.
With this lineup, Ohio State's probably going to get just 1 and done because Michigan really has a big rebound advantage.
King, oh, Skelton, there he is.
Again, pulls it back wisely. I think it'd be a good time to clear out for Jimmy Jackson. He's got Jalen Rose on him, but he needs more room to operate.
Weber knocked it away. Funderburk chases it down. 20 on the shot clock.
See, Jackson is trying to make his move from so far out.
Davis with a low pass to Skelton, and Ohio State retains.
But the shot clock will stay at 12.
Ohio State inbound.
Bill Robinson checks in for Funderburk. Twelve seconds on the shot clock.
Behind Jackson, that's a good idea. Now there'll be a clear out on the low post.
What a fight for the rebound, and it comes out of the pack to Robinson. Ohio State resets and travels. Alex Davis.
Jim, again, Robinson doing a great job. There's Cincinnati with that big victory. So we have 2 lopsided games and 1 all-time thriller to get to the Final Four.
Is it the all-time thriller?
I think it is. Oh, how about that pass?
Bounce pass all the way to the other side. Bosco missing the 3.
Weber pushing off. He forced Jackson down inside.
(68-58). That was the game where Michigan had 13 in the first half. And then Ohio State 77-66. But in that one, game 2 was the single point Steve Fisher said he can identify where the team was really coming together. The tunnel vision started for this group in that second Ohio State game.
There's a clear out for Jackson. See, he's so tough to handle. If you can let him start on the wing about 18 feet from the basket without having used his dribble. Much more effective there than he is starting from the top of the key.
Weber, great hand.
Oh, boy. What a catch.
8 for Weber at the other end. JJ has 6. And he discusses things with Ginn as they bring it up.
Weber coming off that great 30-point performance against East Tennessee State.
He has high and lows, back-to-back games, 30 and then 4. Jackson wants to handle, and that will be a turnover. Backcourt violation.
Yep.
For Michigan, number 21, Ray Jackson for Ohio State.
Final Four Saturday coming up on CBS, 12 o'clock, the NCAA Women's Final Four show, hosted by Andrea Joyce, followed by the Women's National Semifinals, then the Men's Final Four show from Minneapolis, and then the Men's National Semifinals.
For Ohio State,
Ricky Dudley is taking the warm-ups off, coming in for Jackson.
Now, again, a nice substitution move by Ayers because he brings his starting guards back in the game, and he can let them handle the ball. Jackson takes a breather. Gent will move to the small forward position, and Dudley inside on Weber.
Ray Jackson. Weber's right there. Oh, easy put back, he missed. And Howard on the way up, next attempt, was called for.
Slight push off inside on Dudley.
Yep, Dudley. Okay, Dudley right in and picks up the foul.
Yep. Dudley's got that powerful body, good blockout situation.
Billy, actually, they've given it to Gent.
I thought they'd call on Howard coming over his back. Good break for Michigan.
That's a second on Gent. Rose.
Got that right over one of the best defenders in the Big Ten, Jamal Brown. Nothing there.
Jackson is a terrific defender, Ray Jackson. And he helped force that turnover.
And understands this role, Jim, as a freshman. He's accepted that role to play defense, distribute the ball, take shots only when there.
Really the least touted of the Fab Five is Ray Jackson, but has played with more confidence, he told me, since he became a starter. He's looked good so far in this one.
Yep, became a starter in the Notre Dame game.
Already nailed a 3. Work on Robinson now. Howard with a nice move. 28-24 Wolverines.
Robinson's really tired. He's laboring, just getting down the floor.
Baker, good feed. Robinson traveled. Oh.
Yep. He's a tired man right now.
The Ohio State has turned it over 10 times. There's an official timeout on the court. The youngsters lead by 4.
Kentucky, it turns out that Michigan's Fab Five don't even like their nickname Fab Five. So early in the season, they came up with their own name, the 5 times, not the word times, but the multiplication sign, X, meaning 5 times 1 equals unity. They put the Z in there after the rock group Boyz II Men. The Z meaning 5 times. Ray Jackson told me the other day that the 5 times really are simply 5 guys going against the world. Back to you guys.
I know this. The 5 freshmen have made Desmond Howard the 6th most popular athlete on the Michigan campus. Rose in the lane, and Robinson had position. Jet way ahead. He didn't see him.
Yeah, Jalen probably should have pulled up in the foul line, taken his little jumper. He went 1 dribble too far. He's upset with himself. Dudley's strength gets him out of trouble.
Jackson out of the lineup, and Jamal Brown draws the foul off King. Jimmy King, his first, and team foul number 6.
Foul is on King, his first, team 6 for Ohio State.
Jackson right back in after a breather. No, he's going to be coming in for Jamal Brown, the shooter, so he'll have to stay on the sidelines.
Well, what Randy Ayers feels out here is he's got to find some scoring somewhere. So he brings in Jackson to take out Brown and try to find a score, which will really give him Jet, Baker, and himself the score. Baker is averaging 17 a game against Michigan in the 2 previous games, but only has 4 points so far.
Somebody asked the free throw shooter, Jamal Brown, yesterday, why Michigan only scored 13 points against him in 1 half. What did you guys have to do with it? He said nothing. It was all their fault. They didn't shoot the ball very well. Can't take the credit for it.
You know what's interesting, too, Jim, we talk about freshmen. They still were freshmen at that time. Remember, they came off the win at Michigan State, one of the toughest places to play in the league, and then played one of their best games and then one of their worst games. So, not unusual for kids without that experience.
Jen almost came out of it
And
with possession, but out of bounds.
Ohio State picking up their pressure now. And if you're Michigan, you want Rose to get that ball. Here he goes. Counts numbers, looks backwards, gets a feel for the game.
Weber will use the glass.
Robinson is no match for Weber if he takes him 15, 18 feet outside.
10 for Weber. And no foul trouble today. He has only 1. He fouled out for only 18 minutes.
You see Jim Jackson playing down in the low box now, trying to free himself to get off of Jackson. Jackson and Jackson here. Punch foul.
Second on Ray Jackson.
And what Randy Ayers said, even to his superstar, Jim Jackson, there's too much dribbling. I want more passing out there. One of the real bright coaches in the business right here.
Jim Jackson.
Mike Krzyzewski will be interviewed live at halftime by Pat, Mike, and Bill Raftery. Jackson with 7 points. One of only 2 members of the All-America team still alive in the chase for the national championship. J.J. and Christian Laettner. Mourning, O'Neal, Harold Miner have all been eliminated.
And the 2 teammates from the Pan Am game.
Jackson and Laettner.
Right.
And Randy Ayers was the assistant coach. Eugene Cady. Cutting to the basket, and a foul on Robinson. His second, and number 7 on Ohio State.
Nice curl pattern that time by Jackson, by Rose coming over the top.
Ohio State, Basketball Brown.
5 teams still alive.
Rose will step to the line.
Cincinnati, Indiana, and Duke have already talked to their travel agents.
Jim, you slide Ohio State in there to see Cincinnati, and is it hard to believe that it's been a long time, huh?
You talk about, both teams could talk about destiny. Cincinnati, Ohio State haven't met in 30 years since the championship game of 62. They had played in the championship in 61, those two programs. Have not played since. Cincinnati wants to play, but Ohio State won't give them a home and home. Then the other way, Michigan can say, hey, wait a minute. We went through Atlanta. We went through Lexington just like we did in '89 on the way to the title. So one of those stories will come alive this week and will ring true. Largest lead of the game for either team right now, Michigan by 5.
Remember, they had a 5-point lead on Ohio State in game 2. Ohio State turned that around with some good defensive play.
One-handed fling by Jackson.
Rose was driving him baseline and didn't expect somebody to not come over and help him out. Defensive intensity picking up now. Ohio State pushing it out much farther.
Rose, this is a 3. 8 for Rose. 6-point lead for Michigan. Under a minute to go in the half.
Shooting threes much better than they did in the 2 previous meetings, Jim. That 2 for 30 mark is going by the boards.
Brown recovers and hits a 2. Here's where the savvy of Jalen Rose really comes out.
Well, you know, he heard his coach. Hey, one shot here. Don't want to come down. Take a bad one. Give Ohio State a chance to come back in this thing. I'm surprised now, though, that Ohio State doesn't come out after him. Here comes Jackson trying to get a double team.
Turn around with 4 seconds to go.
Can't execute much better than that.
They passed it around a couple of times to set up the basket and a 6-point lead. Michigan 37, Ohio State 31, and CBS Sports exclusive coverage of the NCAA Basketball Championship will continue after this message and a word from your local station.
The game is sponsored by Pizza Hut, home of the $7.99 Supreme Pizza Deal. 7-Up, the Uncola, and your local 7-Up bottler. And by UPS, offering 10:30 guaranteed overnight air delivery.
If you're a basketball fan, you got to love this one. 14 lead changes. The Wolverines of Michigan lead the Buckeyes of Ohio State 37-31. You guys like the way I say Buckeyes, don't you? Welcome to At the Half. I'm Pat O'Brien along with Mike Francesa and Bill Raftery. And we want to get right to them, folks, because the man of the hour, besides Christian Laettner, is the coach of the Duke Blue Devils, who are in the Final Four. Joining us live now, Mike Krzyzewski and from Durham. And Mike, thanks for joining us here on At the Half.
I want to hear Raftery say Buckeyes.
He'll get to that in a minute. First of all, last night to the game, Sean Woods makes that great shot up in the middle there. Did you think you had lost the game at that point?
I thought it was pretty close, yeah, because Sean made a great move. You see Laettner come over, and he shoots right over Laettner. Bobby Hurley and the kids have the presence of mind to call a timeout. And, in fact, Bobby said to every kid when we went out on the court, he said, remember, if they score, call a quick timeout. And that's good leadership.
So now you got the timeout, and speaking of leadership, you got your guys around you now. 2.1 seconds left. What did you tell your squad? What did you say to the kids?
Well, I think the first thing you have to do is tell them we're going to win. And there's somehow we can still win, and we're going to do that. Instead of saying, I hope we do it, we're going to do it. And we put up a play that we designed at the timeout, and with Laettner being the main option, we said, we asked Grant, can you throw the ball? And he says, yeah, I can. And Laettner had the presence of mind to dribble it once and fake and put the shot up. And we told whoever would get the ball that you're going to have some time because there's 2 seconds left and the clock doesn't start until you touch the ball. And you know, Laettner has shown poise throughout his whole career, and those 2 kids, Grant Hill and Christian Laettner, made the play work.
Michael, the Buckeyes are behind by 6. I just want to let you know that.
That's good, Ralph.
I know you've answered this question all day. The Christian Laettner incident with Timberlake, do you think it was sufficient, the technical foul, and the comparison, if you would, with the Sellers incident of last year?
Well, I don't think there's any comparison with the Sellers incident. Two separate incidents. I think that Christian should have been assessed a contact technical. In other words, it's a technical foul which occurs after, at a dead ball situation where there's some contact. It's not flagrant where, you know, you might eject somebody. It's kind of like somebody pushing another player on the way to the free throw line in the administration of a free throw. And I thought the officials got on it right away. What they did was, when they got on it, they gave us the 2 free throws, assessed the technical to Christian, and it was one of his personal fouls then, because that's a new rule this year, and it hurt us. And you know, that was a bad play on Christian's part, but I think the 2 situations are totally different. And the referees took charge of the game and punished the kid during the ball game, which is where the kid should be punished.
Michael, answer this question probably 10,000 times this week, but how about going up against Bob Knight in the Final Four?
Well, I think what you have to be careful about is making sure that you don't go up against another coach, that it's a player's game. And throughout this tournament, the last 2 games we've played, I coached against P.J. Carlissimo, who's a close friend, Rick Pitino, an outstanding coach, and I've tried not to get involved with the coaches. I've tried to get involved with the players that they coach. Kelber Cheney, Anderson, Reynolds, those kids. I mean, they have an outstanding basketball team that doesn't make many mistakes.
Hey, Coach, thanks for joining us on At the Half. We'll see you in Minneapolis, okay?
All right. It'll be a pleasure to be there.
Our pleasure. Right. Congratulations again. Well, as you know, Coach K calls them as he sees them, albeit not as colorfully as the newest member of our CBS tournament announce team, a legend of the game, Al McGuire. Watch.
Trying to turn it over. They're like piranhas after dead meat in the Amazon.
Where are you getting Tibet in the Amazon from, Al?
Memphis State's taking all their ball plays and put them down, back down court. I don't like that. I would rather put a picket fence so you're used to shooting in to the picket fence. Ooh, I'm right. Bring them back in, Larry. Make a picket fence there. The kid's been shooting for his 18, 19 years of age. Have him shoot into the picket fence.
If you'll be my bodyguard, I can be your long-lost pal.
Concise analysis there, Al.
I don't find this stuff amusing anymore.
Success in coaching.
I got a soft tip for it, and I gave every kid 4 lashes with the soft tip. Now, they don't feel that, but it's just
You watch your kids play for that guy, huh? Ooh.
We have, we'll try to do this straight, okay? We have 3 of our Final Four teams. Indiana, Duke, Cincinnati earlier beat Memphis State 88-57. 1 spot left, and we'll soon find out whether Michigan or Ohio State will join us next weekend in Minneapolis. Jim Nantz and Billy Packer will rejoin you in a moment as At the Half rolls on from the concrete canyons to the city of bluegrass country here on CBS. Stay with us.
The #1 seed, Ohio State, leaving the locker room, trailing Michigan 37-31 at halftime. And we'll return to Lexington after this message and a word from your local station. You're watching CBS Sports exclusive coverage of the NCAA Basketball Championship.
Sailboat.
These freshmen have scored 35 of the team's 37 points. Let's get a report now from Curry Kirkpatrick.
Jim, Ohio State has the crowd, but they don't have their rhythm. Randy Ayers told the Buckeyes at halftime, look, we're going too fast. We have to slow down on offense. That's the reason for the turnovers. Jimmy Jackson has 5 turnovers. He also felt he took Lawrence Funderburk out of the game for too long. He was only played 11 minutes. He's got to get Funderburk back in the game very quickly here. On the Michigan side, Steve Fisher reminded Michigan this is the point they were at the last time they played Ohio State. They were up at halftime. He doesn't want them to forget that. Back to you.
All right, Curry. And Billy, it was a very similar score.
Well, it really was. 36-32 with Michigan in lead. And they held it, though, well into the second half before those defensive plays by Ohio State turned it around.
2 of 30 from three-point land for Michigan in the 2 games in the regular season. 2 of 4 today. And Ohio State had 10 first-half turnovers, 5 committed by Jim Jackson. Jackson leads the Buckeyes, however, in scoring. Weber for Michigan.
Jim, a key for Ohio State also is find somebody else who can step up and score. As I said, Baker has averaged 17 against Michigan so far this year. It has to come from Gent, Baker, or Funderburk here in the second half. They can't be all Jim Jackson scoring. Good collapsing by Jimmy King.
He's swinging around, leaving Brown open.
And Jimmy King collapsed and lost sight of his man. And he's going to help for the double team down low. Somebody's got to pick up his man.
10 for the senior captain, Jamal Brown. Howard, turnaround.
Jackson at 6'5" is a pretty solid rebounder.
Chin of 3. They could tie it. Yes.
Nobody back to help. Jalen Rose. You should always have somebody at least prepared to come back and help out.
2 seniors hit 3s to start the half for Ohio State.
Oh, Jalen Rose twisted his ankle away from the ball. He's really in some pain. Never saw it.
We got a shot of it, Billy.
Let's see what happens here. He steps on. How often do we see that? A player step on another player's sneaker. And there's that playground attitude where you just walk it on off. He doesn't even want a trainer.
Rob Pelinka comes in for Rose.
Big fall off for Michigan here, particularly with Ohio State picking up their defensive intensity. Pelinka, a shooter, not the guy can initiate the offense.
Three-pointer for Weber.
And it's after the, or you can call it in the act of shooting. It's something that the referees, I said early in the game, weren't paying much attention to. They're staying right with it afterwards, and the official gives Gent a few words as they pass each other.
Gent's third and 3 at the line for Weber.
Not a smart foul, particularly if the officials are going to stay and concentrate on that shooter after the release.
Rose is heading over to the official score to check right back in.
For Michigan, Jalen Rose checking in.
Jim, maybe it is a throwback day, but I really believe on ankle injuries that if a player will just walk it on off and not go over there, sit down, take off the sneaker, and have the trainer work with it, he's a lot better off. And you can see that's what Rose did. It was just a natural instinct of playing on those playgrounds to say, I'm going to walk this baby off.
I thought he might be out for a little longer, but he's coming right back in, Billy, like you said.
That's old-time playground mentality.
It was Rose who had to tell Weber to relax the other day from the bench. Weber so intense after fouling out that after a Rose three-pointer and a timeout, Weber grabbed Rose by the neck. Oh, Funderburk. And he'll get one more.
Tough break for Michigan. Howard had the ball knocked out of his hands. And there was Funderburk.
Ray Jackson has picked up his third. So 3 on Gent, 3 on Ray Jackson.
Now watch, Funderburk actually should have been headed back up court, but he was just standing there. He's actually out of position and ends up in perfect position. And gives the signal. poses were done by Michigan men, Jim, in football.
Desmond, after a punt return, had a pose, didn't he?
Well, Funderburk actually was out of position on that play. He should have been heading down the other end of the floor to get ready for defense. It worked out fine.
Let me say, before, Rose actually had his neck snapped in a timeout by an intense Weber the other night. He said, hey, chill out, Chris. We got some more games to play.
There's Weber's great hit. And a sensational block out by Gent. And Weber just used those long arms to go right over him again. Second time today he's used those hands and arms to make a great play on the inside.
14 for Weber. Michigan back in front by 2 and a whistle in the lane.
Now watch Gent. He's doing exactly what he's taught. Get a body on your man. He gets a body on him. Weber is already underneath the basket, reaches out and makes the play.
They picked out of the pile there Ray Jackson with the foul, his 4th. So James Bosco is coming in for Jackson.
Now, when they do that, that's going to make a shift. Bosco has to play Jim Jackson, and Jim Jackson can take him one-on-one.
He was on Jackson a little bit at the end of the first half.
Here comes Jackson coming off the curl.
On the block, Funderburk. And he whipped around and got called for the foul, did Funderburk.
Remember in the first half, Jim, when Funderburk was double-teamed, and instead of using that little swing move, he kept his arms together and got away with it. That time he didn't.
He has 3. Gent has 3. The 2 Buckeyes in foul trouble.
Surprised Randy Ayers isn't thinking about going to Robinson here. You need Funderburk down the wire. Probably likes the defensive intensity of his club.
With no stopping that string.
And Funderburk could pick up his 4th easily, trying to handle Weber inside. I think Randy Ayers has got to go with Robinson.
Funderburk, this time on Weber. Bosco was in the pile and called for the foul. Listen to the, well, just the strength of this dunk of Weber. Coming right at you.
That gives you a message. We talk about all the guys jawing with each other. That's a little better message than any verbal message you can receive.
Ohio State with its starting lineup on the floor. Jackson has it stripped by Rose, but comes right back to him, sets up Brown. Jimmy King at 6'5", soars for the rebound.
And a pretty good push. They've got the numbers here.
Rose. Off Weber, Ohio State basketball.
That was a smart play by Jimmy King. He's going to grab this rebound, 6'4", goes way up in the air. You can see his hand extended and did a good job pushing it up the floor that time. They had the numbers for the easy jump shot, just didn't hit it.
Gent. Bosco right between Jackson and Funderburk with the rebound. Chris Weber with the assist.
A sensational player. And what's happening right now, Funderburk has to play tentatively. Michigan's got too much power inside.
Michigan up 6, just like it was at halftime.
Head on this play. What presence of mind here. He's going full blast down the court, sees the open man. Excellent pass to Juwan Howard. We've seen him dunk, we've seen him rebound, we've seen him block shots, we've seen him put the ball on the floor, and there you see him in the open court making a great assist. The nation's #1 high school player last year, now the nation's #1 freshman this year, and No telling what's going to happen throughout his career.
It was on this weekend a year ago. He was leading Country Day High School to a state championship. Jalen Rose also won a state championship on this weekend. Southwestern, their second, in a traveling call against Thunderbird. Super Saturday. Final Four Saturday on CBS, the NCAA Women's Final Four show. Andrea Joyce will host from Los Angeles. Then the Final Four for the women, followed by the men's Final Four show. Pat O'Brien, Mike Francesa, and then Final Four for the men from Minneapolis.
Jim, Bill Robinson into the game now. I think this is an excellent move here because they've got to get some size on the floor. So he's going to play Robinson and Funderburk at the same time. The key for Funderburk is not to pick up that fourth foul. He's on Weber. And there's Weber trying to get him.
No call as Funderburk goes to the floor. King lays it in, and Michigan has its largest lead.
Well, you have to use that matchup. It's got to be Funderburk and on Weber because Weber would be much too quick for Robinson.
Three-pointer Jackson when they had to have it.
Boy, he really gathered himself beautifully on that play. Had the legs right into the shot.
Three-pointer for Rose, short. And little Mark Baker has it. Shake and bake with his third rebound. Maybe should have gone up with it. 3-on-1 for the Wolverines. Oh, what a fake. And King had the easy lay-in. Rose looking away.
Well, exactly. Rose, everybody assumed that Rose would go for the lob to Weber. Maybe when they were freshmen, that would have been the play. Now, as experienced vets in the Big Ten, he makes the easy play. Ohio State still hasn't been able to find somebody else that can score other than Jackson.
And here he is with another three. Jimmy King walked. Malenka in for Michigan. And Bosco sits. Northern needs some of that senior leadership, and Jim Jackson's leadership, almost like a senior, although he's a junior. He's been there and such a key part of this team for so long. We have a great awareness that our Ohio State careers could be over in one game, and we're having too much fun, says Chris Gent. Look at Funderburk. Slices the lead to 5.
And of course, Funderburk with a 21-point game against North Carolina could be the guy to step up. Randy Ayers really needs somebody to have a big second half.
No question about Robinson on that one.
He never got there, and Juwan Howard beat him to the spot.
Robinson's third and team foul number 3. .12:56 remaining. The 6th seed, Michigan, could become the highest seed to make it to a Final Four since Kansas was a 6 in 1988.
Well, they didn't do bad.
In fact, what was interesting, they came out of a regional final also against a conference opponent, Kansas State. Here it's Big Ten on Big Ten.
Right.
Oh, stolen, read perfectly by Brown, and he's got Jackson coming down. Oh, off his hands. Michigan basketball.
And Jim, I go back, and you can see the turnovers here, but I go back to that telestrator at the top of this show saying how Michigan has improved on their defensive intensity getting back.
Jackson to Robinson. Out of bounds. Swatted out by Weber.
And what Jackson is saying to Robinson is, when I pass you the ball under the boards, don't fade out for a jump shot. Go up for the power move. It gave Weber the space for the block.
Third block of the day for Weber. Baker up high over King. Nice jumper by Mark Baker.
And here the defense picking up earlier, trying to create the turnovers, get some offense out of the defense.
Rose.
Basket by Rose.
We saw him do that for 18 second-half points against Duke. That same kind of move where he goes in there with that looping left-handed shot. Not a jump shot, not a layup. Offensive foul.
Offensive foul on Jim Jackson, number 2. Team foul 4. Riley in for Weber. That adds to the turnover total. It's actually in the stats as a turnover as well as a foul. 15 on Ohio State. Who would have expected that? Robinson snags it at last. 8 rebounds for him. Baker hit from that spot a moment ago. Tip almost. Funderburk again. And I think it's against Riley.
There was Funderburk showing what we saw all day against North Carolina. The second jump. You see the ball go up on the boards. Jackson comes in with a tap. He misses. Funderburk goes up. He misses. But watch him go up for the second one. There he is, right back in again. And there's the foul.
Third against Riley. We're under 12 minutes to go. First dead ball situation under 12, so we'll have the official timeout. Fab 5 leads by 5. Going for the Final Four at 2 sites today, here at Rupp Arena, and also right now at Joe Louis Arena in Detroit. It's Michigan against Northern Michigan for the NCAA hockey Final Four berth, and the right to go to Albany, New York.
Now, Jim, you gave me wrestling the other day. I know something about wrestling, but I don't know much about hockey pucks.
How about a score? 2-2, Michigan and Northern Michigan after 1. Going for the Final Four.
I'll buy that.
You were all over that Oklahoma State wrestling. King with a steal.
Not good spacing for a pass inside by Baker. Just telegraphed it, and King did a good job picking it off. Lob pass.
Basket by King.
They do that more than anybody in college basketball.
Well, you know why? All 5 of their guys can go ahead and make the lob dunk. How many teams can say that?
Jamal Brown.
By Brown.
Brown's starting to pick it up, looking for his shot much more.
He has 12.
Yeah, Jeff, King is the guard. He's being guarded by Baker, and it's not often that when you're used to playing guards that you have somebody pick for that lob and that blind screen you get from the back. And that's what threw Baker off stride.
Weber with a 3. Rose right back.
Basket by Rose.
So tough inside.
Baker at the 10-minute mark. 10 minutes to go for the last spot in Minneapolis. Michigan 55, Ohio State 50.
Jim, it's so close to the second game. With 5 minutes to play, Michigan was up 57-54. And that's when it fell apart for them. Oh, that was a push by Robinson.
No call. Riley gets up off the floor. Pelinka 3. Oh, Jimmy King, what a follow. With great leaping ability.
Now there's the case. 3 baskets in a row by Michigan, all by guards, all down inside the paint.
Jackson up high. One-handed jumper. Back to a 5-point deficit for Ohio State. Michigan 57-52. Weber traveled to make his initial move around Funderburk. Captain Freddie Hunter is in for Michigan. And Alex Davis along with Jamie Skelton, that duo off the bench at the guard spot for Ohio State.
And what Randy Ayers is hoping here is to probably get 3 minutes out of them, pick up defensive intensity, try to turn the ball over. But, Jim, the key in this second half has been Michigan's got 16 points in the paint. Ohio State only 6. They're just overpowering them inside.
Skelton. He loves that running floater.
That's the first point that Skelton or Davis has scored against Michigan in 3 games. But big ones. And this was the score, 57-54. And Ohio State made their move on Michigan in game 2.
Ohio State. Jim Jackson said, we're playing for a lifelong dream. I don't care if we times or 6 times. This is different. It's the most important game Ohio State and Michigan have ever played in basketball. Oh, a block by Rose, but they call him for a foul, and I think it's a 3-shot situation.
Yeah, he was very close to the line, Jim.
First on Rose, team foul number 5.
You know, Jim, I think back also when we started talking about having beaten somebody twice. You go to the Final Four when Michigan won in '89. Who was that team in the semifinals? Illinois, that had beaten them twice. You see it right here. He pulls up. Yes, it is a 3.
They're calling it a 2-shot.
Oh, no. Without question, it was 3. Without question.
Now they've overruled it. A change, and you can hear the reaction from the Ohio State fans. Clearly a 3.
It's a good full step. He's behind the line.
The 131st meeting for these 2 schools.
Here's a man who has not missed a free throw all year long.
Alex Davis.
And we didn't jinx him. When you're a 100% shooter, you don't get jinxed. He's 14. Now he's 15 for 15 from the line.
Davis can tie it. He has had tournament fame before as a freshman. A year where he started 15 games. Hit a tying 3 to send a game into overtime. And he ties this one up. An official timeout under 8. The 11th tie of this game. Southeast final. Final spot for the Final Four. And in the game summary, percentages pretty even. Turnovers more by the Buckeyes. Almost won by Michigan.
What hustle by Gent. You know, Michigan in this lineup, they never have Rose come to the ball to get it inbounds, and I think that really hurts them. I don't know why they don't do that, but they've been able to get by with it.
Curry Kirkpatrick has relayed to us that on the bench, Randy Ayers told Jim Jackson, get ready, you're not going to be sitting for long.
No, but how about the guts to sit him down at all? You know, he's been playing this game all throughout the tournament. Keep fresh legs out there.
Belongs to the Bucks.
And Dudley made a great play there by shielding Juwan Howard. Now he comes back. He got the time he wanted out of Davis, who makes 3 key free throws. Now he comes back with a fresh Baker, a fresh Jackson. Keeps Dudley in the game. And how about the fact how long Funderburk has stayed in there? Jimmy picked up that 3rd foul early in the second half and hadn't picked up 4th yet.
Michigan calls a timeout. 7:19 to go. The winner of Ohio State, Michigan in game 1 at Minneapolis, followed by the Special K matchup, Knight against Krzyzewski, Indiana and Duke.
And Jim, since 1979, no more than 2 number 1s have made it to the Final Four, and it can't happen again this year, no matter what happens here.
Ohio State could become the second, joining Duke at the Final Four if they can pull this one out. Inside, and it belongs to Michigan.
Now, what Weber is trying to do defensively is patrol the whole paint by himself. He's really not concentrating on Dudley. Dudley could get an easy putback or set a solid screen for Funderburk and score. Let's keep an eye on that.
Jackson's pass batted away, and he retrieves it.
When you're going to feed that post, you've got to have pretty good spacing. You want to be 12 feet or in.
Jackson slipped. Travel. Or Jimmy King.
That's that fresh defensive legs that Baker has right now. Rose and King have put in a lot of minutes.
4 turnovers in the last 5 trips for Michigan after that walking call against Jimmy King.
Watch Dudley. He's not being guarded by anybody right now.
Ayers in the last huddle told his team, don't force any passes.
The seam, Jim.
Ohio State's first lead since 24-22.
And Jim Jackson picks up Jalen Rose. He wants a piece of the glue right here.
Howard, way too strong. Right back to him. Foul on Dudley.
We're going to see split the seam. Goes right through the 2. Makes the spin on Weber, and Juwan Howard can't get there in time. What quickness by Funderburk.
They both reached in for a possible steal, and he was gone before they knew it. 9-0 run.
He is quick.
Jim Jackson.
Well, what faked Jim Jackson out there is Rose went to his right. He was anticipating moving to the left, or at least a spin move, and Jalen put it right down and went by him on the right.
3rd on Jackson, team foul number 6. They'll be shooting on the next one. Oh, great play by Dudley. Never a chance with Rose's pass.
I'm wondering if Rose is being mystified a little bit, having Jim Jackson right in his face.
That's 5 out of 6 trips where they have turned it over. 5 of the last 6.
Exactly what happened when they had the lead against Ohio State the last time they played.
Same point of the game, Billy, as you pointed out. The collapse occurred at the same point.
You know, Ohio State has not only won 2 this year, they've got 5 in a row against Michigan over a 2-year span.
4:30 remaining. Shot clock under 10.
Jackson had the good backdoor cut, but he wasn't there.
Funderburk picks it off the floor. Jackson in the right spot. Sandra Jackson, his mother. 16 for her son, and Ohio State has its largest lead. Dudley again with a foul.
But that's not a bad foul, because it's going to put Weber less than a 50% free throw shooter on the line.
Second to team 7.
You know, Jim, in thinking about substitutions that have been made by a coach, I have to go back to Bill Hodges with Indiana State. Seemed to have that magic touch when he took that club to the Final Four, just as Ayers is having in this one.
Timeout called by Randy Ayers in Ohio State. Final Four show starts at 5, and then the first game, Cincinnati against the winner of this one, followed by Indiana and Duke. I think the kids feel the pressure. How about the parents? That's Chris Gent's mother.
Weber will step the line for one and a bonus.
1-1 for Weber.
As I said, as good as a turnover, Jim, foul Weber in that situation in the game.
Jackson feeding Funderburk. An open Gent.
And he got fouled on the arm after the shot, but no call.
Michigan has to snap out of it. They have yielded now 11 straight points.
In order to do this, I think it should be Rose penetrating a little bit with the dribble.
Scoreless for 6 minutes, Billy, on the game clock.
Now that's a mark of a good team, can shut somebody down.
So Baker almost had it, lost his footing, would have had the steal.
One thing about Duke yesterday, 11 of the last 14 possessions in regulation, Kentucky scored against them. That is not a good sign for a Manchester team. That's the play. Put the ball in Rose's hands on a dribble.
So he breaks the drought that lasted 6.5 minutes without a point. 2-point game, under 3 to go. Playing for the Final Four. Jackson fadeaway.
Not a good shot.
Oh, Howard did not have the angle on the rebound, so it came out to Baker.
We got a 2-time Conference Player of the Year, All-American, being guarded by a kid from Texas, a freshman, playing his first year in the Big Ten.
The Big Ten matchup, Billy, you know, it's hard to believe there are 3 starters on the floor from the state of Texas.
Yep.
More from Texas than any other state in this game.
Solid screen by Gent.
Under 10 on the shot clock. Baker blocked by Weber, and Rose comes out with it.
Boy, how about that presence of mind? He knew exactly where Baker was behind him. They need to put the ball in Rose's hands.
This could tie it. Weber goes in lead. A minute 30 remaining. Michigan has come back from 4 down to tie it. Jackson will work on Jackson. Last touch by the Wolverines.
Jim, just as the game yesterday against Duke and Kentucky, you almost don't want this game to end. You know, I mean, just great college basketball.
A timeout has been called. No signal. Here it is. Ohio State called the timeout. Settle in for the final 120. Michigan with 2 timeouts. Ohio State with 1. Ohio State to inbounds with 19 seconds on the shot clock. The game tied at 61.
And you notice, Jim, Michigan, those 5 fouls.
On the shot clock. Brown finds a cutting Baker.
Got to put it up.
Brown with a 2-point shot.
There's his dad. Look at his father cheering on.
His father Otis, his son Jamal Brown, the captain for the Buckeyes, gives them the lead.
Well, Jalen Rose did the right thing charging out at him because he knew where the shot clock was, but Brown had the presence of mind to let him go on.
Timeout called by Michigan. Each team left with 1.
State's 9 straight. They've beaten Michigan 5 straight. They haven't lost with these sneakers for 7 straight, and they find themselves in a good position in one respect. Michigan has 1 more foul to give before Ohio State gets to the 1-and-1, so Michigan can aggressively go out if they can score here and really try to go for the steal, because Ohio State will not yet be on the line.
44 seconds to go. 33 on the shot clock.
Can't wait long to get that ball in Jalen Rose's hands.
Howard's looking for him. They switch off. Gents on him. A leaner. Rose doesn't get the Weber. Follows.
Yeah, they can afford. I'm surprised they're not pressing here. I'll tell you why. Ohio State they got a foul right now. They need a foul right away. Because the next foul, if they foul, Ohio State doesn't have to go to the line.
So they've got a free one.
Yeah, they got a foul.
10 seconds to go. The ball is in the hands of the All-America Jim Jackson. Pass is deflected. Thunderbird has it. Chipped.
OT.
OT it is. Oh. Fisher's wife, as you heard, hail to the victors. Who will they be? Overtime for the final spot in Minneapolis.
Jim, what I was thinking about on the fouls there is that they had one to give. So go out and aggressively try to make a steal, because even if you foul the man, it wouldn't have put Ohio State on the line. And sometimes when you can aggressively go out not worrying about committing a foul, you can turn the ball over with a chance to win.
Michigan's one overtime loss this year was to Duke.
Played conservatively, and it worked out.
Michigan will have it first in the 5-minute overtime.
Weber got the opening tap of the game as well.
Each team will have 2 timeouts in the overtime. They had 1 remaining, 1 in the bag, and they get 1 more for the OT.
And Ohio State's still not in the 1-and-1. That carries over.
First time ever, we've been informed, 2 regional finals into overtime. Duke in Kentucky yesterday, this one right now.
Of course, we remember that team that Michigan played one of those overtimes in against Duke.
Rose. Two-pointer for Rose. If this is just an appetizer to the Final Four, we're set for one of the all-time menus.
Just a great game.
Off of Jackson's foot.
Oh, did you see Weber? Weber kicked. He kicked Jackson right in the tail on the basis of his enthusiasm for what Jackson did. Watch this.
Told you how he snapped Jalen Rose's neck the other night.
That's right.
Weber.
They can't afford to let him be a cheerleader very often. He'll hurt somebody.
The ML Carr, they call him, but I don't think ML ever hurt anybody.
ML used to have that towel with him all the time.
Pride of the Celtics in Guilford College.
Kind of like that Calbert Cheney towel that IU fans will probably want to auction off after that display with Bob Knight. Great play.
Thunderbird, Jim with the pass ahead, and it's tied by Jimmy Jackson. What a play by Thunderbird, and then Gent released it right away to the breaking Jackson.
Boy, you can't teach height and you can't teach quickness. And Thunderbird showing us time and again what quickness means.
Jimmy King, he has to take the open three. 15 for the King.
They are not freshmen anymore. Are they cool?
They're freshmen in the classroom, at least sophomores on the basketball court.
Maybe graduate students.
Again, Ray Jackson stirring things up defensively. Knocked it out of bounds. It belongs to Ohio State. Rupp Arena in Lexington, Kentucky. Jim Nance, Billy Packer, and Curry Kirkpatrick solving the final piece to the puzzle. Who will be the fourth team to make it to Minneapolis? We're in overtime with 2:30 to go. Michigan ahead by 3 on the Jimmy King three-pointer.
Good jump step. Good jump step.
Tough shot by Gent. And it's out of bounds. Belongs to Michigan.
Now, I think, Jim, that Ohio State has to be a little bit more concentrating on getting Jim Jackson the ball. He came off that curl well, never touched it.
Howard, he's done this before, Billy. Very aware of the 5 count. We've seen it in other games. He called a timeout, leaving the Wolverines with 1. Set for Saturday. Cincinnati awaits the winner of this one. Michigan will have possession with a 3-point lead. And I remind you, Billy, that yesterday Kentucky had a 3-point lead in the overtime and possession. And Duke came back to win it.
Jim, one of the things interesting, Michigan still only has 5 team fouls. So Ohio State's still not in the 1-and-1, find themselves down 3 here. It's kind of a difference in the second game particularly. Ohio State was 24 of 30 from the free throw line in that game. The score was 77-66, so it wasn't a real high-scoring game. And Michigan was only 5 for 15 from the line. So obviously a big change in the way these teams are playing aggressive defense without fouling so much.
These two rivals last met in overtime 10 years ago in Ann Arbor, and Michigan prevailed 62-60. Juwan Howard walking back to the baseline where he'll inbound.
And you notice Rose is positioned in a different place than he normally is now. And I think maybe the swing is coming to get Rose that ball. He doesn't want to release too soon.
They deny Rose. Weber comes to it and gets it back over to Jalen Rose. Alex Davis on him. Skelton is in for the Buckeyes.
Yes, they're in just to play some fresh defense because Baker and Brown right back up on the sideline.
Rose on the try.
And the rebounds. Amazing. Rose, even with that left hand, which is so predominant in his play, will drive to the right on you, even though he's got that left hand moving.
Starting backcourt back in, Brown and Baker, and Billy, that was the 4th against Jim Jackson. Rose was in a shooting situation. You know, you think of Michigan and Ohio State. They've met so many times in football with a Rose on the line. A Rose Bowl, that is.
Right.
Now here's a Jalen Rose. He'll have one more.
And Jim, that foul on Jackson hurts in another way. He penetrates an awful lot on his dribble. He's going to have to be careful now because he could pick up the offensive charge foul. Five-point
lead, exactly 2 minutes to go. Jamal Brown, long, listen to 3, comes back out to Baker. He spots a man on the baseline. It's Jackson, and Ohio State calls an immediate timeout.
Well, how often have we seen the three-point shot provide the long rebound?
Timeout, Ohio State.
Jimmy Jackson floating on the baseline. Ohio State timeout. We'll find out why Henry Kissinger is so upset, followed by Murder, She Wrote and Highway Heartbreaker. 3-point lead. maize and blue with 1:35 to go.
Nice job by Juwan Howard with nobody open. Brings the ball up the court himself.
How many times do you see your center do that?
Yep.
Ray Jackson right back. He got fouled.
Weber's too strong. The foul on the arm.
He can increase the lead to 6.
Watch the cut and an excellent pass. He goes backwards. He's just too strong. Gent must weigh 220, and Weber just takes him anyway.
Weber will step to the line.
You know, Jim, what was impressive about him at the press conference the other day when they asked him about his game? Instead of talking about the 4 points in the 18 minutes he played, he talked about the team and about the spirit of the seniors. Never used the word I in his comments. Classy kid.
6-point lead. Weber with 23. A must possession for Ohio State.
Lustin, they've got to start thinking three-point shots, too.
Brown drives, lays it up. No! Thunderbird. Belongs to Ohio State.
I think they need to drive inside and force the ball back out to Gent for a 3 or Jackson for a 3.
We started with 64 teams. We're down to 5. 64 seconds to play for the final spot.
They're not going to get 3 or 4 possessions here. They need to be thinking 3. There it is.
Oh, it slipped right out of his hands. Baker, he drives right over Weber. And Howard and Michigan with possession. Oh, Gent with the steal. Jackson gives it up. Gent walks out. High arching 3. Jalen Rose.
He's not going to give it up. He wants to get fouled. Smart play.
Foul is on Jamal Brown against the first, team 10. Rose will step to the line for 2.
They're in the double bonus. 10 team fouls against Ohio State. So Rose will have 2. With 32 seconds remaining.
Well, Jim, they said that Steve Fisher did it with Bill Frieder's team last time. Nobody can take anything away from Steve Fisher this time. These are his kids.
The 89 team came out of Atlanta and out of Lexington. The same combo this year. In fact, they've stayed at the same hotels, everything.
Same towels.
Had to beat a conference foe in the tournament that had beaten them 2 for 2 in the regular season. Then it was Illinois. Timeout called by Michigan, and they don't have any remaining.
back the Michigan kids. They have a certain swagger about them. But, you know, yesterday they said something. There have only been 2 teams this year we have not beaten at least once. One is Ohio State, and the other one is Duke.
They said we have some payback to do. And they're not looking ahead. They say we're not looking ahead, but the ultimate for us would be to meet Duke in the Monday night final.
Now, they said that they weren't looking forward to being one of the Sweet 8 because you have to go through the Sweet 8 to get what they really want.
Ohio State is down 8 with 32 seconds remaining. This 8-point margin is the largest of the game for any team, either team.
You see what Steve Fisher's doing right now. He wants Jackson to make them dribble the ball, to use some time up, and then drop weight back in defense.
Jackson 3. Thunderbird. He'll challenge Weber and lay it in. Ohio State has 1 timeout left. They won't use it here. Baseball pass. Oh, Davis looked up. He could have had it. Now he comes right back to her. 10 seconds to go. Jim needs to hit a quick 3 and call the time. Follow-up. Here's her timeout. With 3.4 seconds to go. A 4-point lead. Michigan 3 seconds from going to the Final Four. Up 4.
They can hand the ball to Ohio State, let Ohio State score. Ohio State has no more timeouts, so they cannot lose the game. You don't have to devise a play here. Really hand the ball in bounds.
Punched into the air. The game is over. The Fab Five is headed to the Final Four.
From Lexington all over again.
Everybody kept telling me this, and I was a tough believer. I believe now. We got a good team.
Thanks a lot, Steve. Back to you, Jim Nance.
They become the lowest seed since Kansas in 1988 to make the Final Four. We are now set for Minneapolis. It'll be Cincinnati and Michigan in the first game, followed by Indiana and Duke in game 2. The Chevrolet players of the game, Chris Weber and Jim Jackson. Billy, I don't know when college basketball has seen such an exciting team come on the scene. These kids are remarkable. And let's send it back to Pat O'Brien.
And Coach is right. Those kids made believers out of us all. A reminder to stay tuned for the CBS News Magazine 60 Minutes tonight. Why is Henry Kissinger so upset? Maybe he thinks the 60 Minutes crew knows more about him than it does. Right, find out tonight. Then it's Murder, She Wrote, followed by the CBS Sunday movie Highway Heartbreaker. Sounds like an appropriate sequel to The Road to the Final Four. Now let's mark our calendars again for next weekend as March Madness rolls into April. On Saturday, our coverage begins with the Women's Final Four show from Los Angeles at noon Eastern Time. Southwest Missouri State will tip against Western Kentucky at 12:42 Eastern, with Stanford and Virginia to follow in the second women's semifinal. At 5 o'clock Eastern, the scene shifts to Minneapolis for the men's Final Four show, followed by Cincinnati against Michigan. Pencil that tip in for 5:42 Eastern. And about 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern, Indiana and Duke. You could not ask for more next Saturday on CBS Sports. On Sunday at 4, we'll have the Women's National Championship And on Monday night, it all caps off with the national championship at 9 Eastern Time. 64 teams were chosen 2 weeks ago. Tonight, the final 4 remain. And for all of us here at CBS Sports, I'm Pat O'Brien in New York. How much fun has this been, folks? Thank you for watching. We'll see you next Saturday. We're coming to Minneapolis. Good night, everybody.